You are going to choose one of them, or I will choose for you. Catherine Montgomery's voice echoed through the mansion's dining hall like a final sentence, as she pointed to 4 impeccably dressed women sitting at the mahogany table that was worth more than most homes in Atlanta. Her son, Michael Montgomery, 32, looked at his mother with an expression that mixed weariness and something akin to desperation. 4 weeks. It had been 4 weeks that these women were living in his house, each one competing for the title of future Mrs. Montgomery. But he was not the one truly choosing. "Mother, we've already talked about this." "We've talked about nothing," Catherine interrupted him, adjusting a diamond necklace that cost more than the annual salary of 10 families. At 58, the CEO of Montgomery Industries for 15 years since her husband died, she had no patience for resistance. "You are 32, Michael. Time to stop playing engineer and start thinking about legacy. About heirs. About someone appropriate." In the kitchen, through the half-open door, Tasha Williams, 29, silently wiped down the granite countertop while listening to every word. 3 months working in that mansion. 3 months witnessing that embarrassingly orchestrated circus. The 4 candidates were no secret to anyone in the house. Victoria Sterling, daughter of a senator, corporate lawyer. Amanda Preston, heiress to a pharmaceutical empire. Lauren Whitfield, a surgeon from a traditional Boston family. And Natalie Crawford, a tech entrepreneur whose startup had just been valued at $50 million. All white. All rich. All perfectly polished like jewels in a display case. "Michael, darling," Victoria said in a sugary voice, "your mother only wants what's best for you. And honestly, it's about time to settle down with the proper roots." "Proper roots," Tasha murmured to herself, scrubbing an imaginary spot on the already impeccable countertop. "Perfect code for marry someone of your own color and social class." She knew those codes intimately. The daughter of a domestic worker, Tasha had grown up hearing variations of those very phrases in Charleston mansions. Appropriate. Proper. Our kind of people. Elegant euphemisms for the racism the elite used when they wanted to sound civilized. "Ms. Williams," Catherine's sharp voice called out. "Bring more champagne. The 2008 Cristal." Tasha entered the dining room carrying the $3,000 bottle as if it were common water. She moved through the space with the silent efficiency she had developed in years of domestic work, present but invisible, useful but disposable. But when she passed Michael to serve the champagne, their eyes met for a fraction of a second. And in that brief moment, something passed between them that made Tasha's heart dangerously speed up. Because it wasn't the first time. In the last 4 weeks, while Catherine paraded her pre-approved candidates, something completely unplanned was happening. Michael and Tasha had started talking. Not superficial boss-employee chats, but real, deep dialogues. At 2 a.m. when he came down to work on engineering projects and found her studying in the kitchen. "What are you reading?" he had asked on the first night, genuinely curious. "Dostoevsky," she had answered, quickly hiding the book. "I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't." "Why shouldn't you read in my house's kitchen?" "Because it's not my house. It's my job." But Michael had sat across from her, taken a cup of coffee, and started a discussion about crime and punishment that lasted 3 hours. And after that, it became an unsaid ritual. Secret 2 a.m. meetings where they talked about literature, engineering, philosophy, dreams they both kept locked away during the day. "Michael, are you listening to me?" Catherine's voice brought him back. Victoria asked a question. "Sorry," he mumbled. "What was it?" Victoria smiled, but there was a coldness in her eyes. "I was saying we are going to the charity gala on Friday. I thought we could go together. It would be appropriate." There was that word again. "Of course," Michael agreed automatically, but Tasha saw a muscle in his jaw twitch. A sign she had learned to recognize. He was agreeing with his mouth but disagreeing with his soul. "Perfect," Catherine said, raising her glass. "Victoria, you will be an excellent addition to the Montgomery family." The other 3 women exchanged glances. Apparently, the Queen had already chosen a successor. Later that night, Michael was in his private office when he heard a gentle knock. "Come in." Tasha opened the door, carrying a tray with a sandwich and coffee. "I apologize for disturbing you, Mr. Montgomery. Your mother asked me to bring you something before you went to sleep." "Tasha," he said tiredly, "when we are alone, you can call me Michael." How many times do I have to ask? She placed the tray on the table, but hesitated before leaving. Michael, can I ask you something? Always. Why are you doing this? This game your mother created. Michael laughed bitterly. Because if I don't, she will disinherit me. I'll lose access to the trust fund that controls 40% of the company. And without that, I can't finance the project that really matters. Project. He turned his laptop to show her detailed blueprints of a low-cost water purification system for underserved communities. I've worked on this for the last 3 years. It could save millions of lives in developing countries. But it needs $20 million in seed capital. Tasha looked at the screen, genuinely impressed. That is incredible. It's necessary, he corrected. But my mother thinks it's an inappropriate hobby for a Montgomery. She wants me to take over the company and forget engineering. So you are selling your soul for a project? I am making a calculated sacrifice. What if there was another way? Michael looked at her with an intensity that made Tasha take a step back. If there was, do you think I would be entertaining this circus? Silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Tasha turned to leave. Tasha, he called her. She stopped at the door. At 2 a.m.? She didn't turn around, but he saw her shoulders relax slightly. I'll be in the kitchen. After the door closed, Michael buried his face in his hands. He was in an impossible situation. His mother had made the terms crystal clear: marry one of the 4 candidates by the end of the year, or lose everything. And everything didn't just mean money, it meant the capacity to make a real difference in the world. But with every day that passed, every forced conversation with the women Catherine had chosen, every moment pretending interest in people who saw him only as a prize to be won, it was destroying something inside him. Meanwhile, Tasha, the woman who was supposed to be invisible, who silently served champagne while the elite discussed his future as if it were a business transaction, was the only person in the house who saw who he truly was. And worse, she was the only person for whom he was starting to have feelings that were definitely not appropriate between a boss and an employee. Feelings that, if Catherine discovered, would destroy not only his chances of funding the project, but probably Tasha's life too. Because Catherine Montgomery was not just a powerful billionaire. She was a woman who controlled destinies with the same coldness with which she controlled a corporate empire. And when someone threatened her plans, well, there was a reason why the previous 3 personal assistants had left the house in tears, their careers destroyed, their reputations ruined. And Michael was about to discover how far his mother was willing to go to protect her vision of an appropriate future for the Montgomery family. If this story about the courage to defy expectations and the power of genuine connections is intriguing you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what is about to happen when Catherine discovers the truth about her son's late-night meetings with the cleaner will prove that some battles are worth every sacrifice, even when the enemy is your own mother. Catherine Montgomery hadn't reached the top of a $2 billion empire by being naive. At 58, she had developed a predatory instinct for detecting threats before they even fully took shape. And on that Thursday morning, while sipping Earl Grey tea in her private office, something about Michael's behavior was off. Ms. Williams, she called through the intercom. Come here, please. Tasha went up the stairs, her heart racing. 5 months working there, and this was the first time Catherine had summoned her personally. Usually, orders came through Margaret, the head housekeeper. Yes, Mrs. Montgomery? Catherine did not look up immediately. She continued reviewing financial reports, leaving Tasha standing for a long 90 seconds, a power technique she had practiced in corporate boardrooms for decades. Finally, she raised her eyes. How long have you been working here? 5 months, ma'am. And before that? I worked in 3 other homes. I have references. I didn't ask about references, Catherine cut her off with surgical precision. I asked about you. Personally. Tasha felt the trap closing, but maintained a neutral expression. Years of working for the wealthy had taught her to hide emotions as second nature. I am 29. I'm from Charleston. My mother worked as a domestic worker for 25 years before. Before what? Before she passed away. Pancreatic cancer. 2 years ago. Catherine made a note on a pad. And your father? I never knew him. Education. Tasha hesitated. This question was a minefield. High school diploma, ma'am. It wasn't a lie. Technically. But it also wasn't the complete truth. Tasha had a degree in literature from Spelman College, a historically black institution in Atlanta. But she had learned early on that being an overeducated maid created discomfort for employers. They preferred to think that those who cleaned their bathrooms were intellectually inferior. Easier on their conscience. Interesting, Catherine said, but her tone suggested she found it anything but interesting. Michael seems satisfied with your work. Tasha's heart skipped a beat. I hope I am meeting expectations, ma'am. He mentioned you during breakfast today. Said the house has never been so organized. I appreciate the compliment, ma'am. Catherine closed the folder abruptly. It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. She stood up, walking over to the window that overlooked the gardens where Michael was playing tennis with Victoria. Do you know what the problem is with people like you, Ms. Williams? No, ma'am. You confuse proximity with belonging. Catherine turned, her blue eyes cold as ice. You work in a luxurious home, wear a clean uniform, eat food prepared by a professional chef. And you start to forget that you are not a guest. You are an employee. I have never forgotten my place, ma'am. Then make sure you keep it that way. Catherine returned to her desk. Because I have very specific plans for Michael's future. And those plans do not include distractions. After Tasha left, Catherine picked up the phone. Diane? Catherine Montgomery. I need a discreet investigation into an employee. Tasha Williams, 29, from Charleston. I want to know everything, her actual education, full history, connections, debts, anything that might be useful. Diane Harper, a private investigator who had served the Atlanta elite for 20 years, recognized the tone. How discreet does this need to be? Absolutely. And Diane? I need it in 48 hours. Meanwhile, on the tennis court, Victoria was losing patience with the game and with Michael. You're distracted today, she observed, wiping her brow with an expensive towel. Sorry. Work on my mind. Work, Victoria repeated with thinly veiled disdain. Michael, when are we going to have a real conversation about your future? About our future? Victoria. No, she interrupted him, tossing her racket onto the bench. I've been here for a month. A whole month playing the compliant candidate in this ridiculous process your mother invented. And you barely look at me. That's not true. Isn't it? Then look at me now and tell me you feel something. Anything. Michael met her eyes, green, beautiful, completely devoid of any real connection. Victoria, you are an amazing woman. I don't want to be amazing. I want to be chosen. She took a step closer. Do you know how many men would kill for a chance to be with me? My father is a senator. My family traces back to the Mayflower. I could have anyone. Then why are you here? The question caught her off guard. For a moment, the mask of confidence slipped, revealing something uglier underneath. Because Montgomery Industries is worth $2 billion. Because a connection to your family would open doors even my last name can't. And because... She paused, recalibrating. Because I genuinely like you, Michael. But both of them knew that liking had come as an afterthought. I need a shower, Michael said, leaving the court before Victoria could continue. He went up to his room, but as he passed the hall, he heard voices in the living room. He stopped, recognizing the tones, Amanda and Lauren chatting while Natalie listened. Personally, I think he's already chosen Victoria, Amanda was saying. Catherine clearly prefers her. Catherine prefers any of us over him staying single, Lauren corrected. But I agree Victoria has the edge. Her father's political connections are valuable. Connections, Natalie scoffed. We're talking about him as if he were a corporate acquisition. Well, isn't he? Amanda replied pragmatically. None of us is here for love at first sight. We're here because it makes sense. On a financial, social, familial level. You don't feel anything for him? Natalie asked. I feel he's a decent project, Amanda admitted. Handsome, intelligent, well-mannered. It could be worse. And once we have heirs and the family structure is established, we can all live reasonably independent lives. It's not like fidelity is a realistic expectation in these marriages. Michael felt nausea-rising. This was the future his mother was orchestrating for him? A transactional marriage where everyone faked feelings that didn't exist? That night, at 2 a.m., he went down to the kitchen. Tasha was already there, but she wasn't reading. She was crying silently, her hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. "Tasha, what happened?" She quickly wiped her face. "Nothing. I'm sorry, I shouldn't." "Please," he sat across from her. "Tell me." For a long moment, she just looked at him. Then, in a broken voice, she said, "Your mother called me in today. She asked questions about my life. And I know what comes next. I've seen this before." "Seen what?" "An investigation. Finding something, anything, to discredit me. To make me seem inappropriate, dangerous, a threat." The tears returned. "My mother went through it 3 times. Whenever a family noticed their child liked her too much. Suddenly, she was an unsuitable influence. Didn't know her place. Created inappropriate expectations." "Tasha. And you know what's worse? I really tried to avoid it here. I kept my distance. I was professional. But then you." She stopped, realizing she was saying too much. "Then I what?" "Then you started talking to me like I was a person. Like my opinions mattered. Like I wasn't just invisible." She stood up, turning her back to him. "And now I'm going to pay for it." Michael stood up too, but maintained his distance. "I won't let my mother hurt you." Tasha laughed humorlessly. "Michael, you are a 32-year-old man who needs his mother's permission to live his own life. How are you going to protect me when you can't even protect yourself?" The truth of those words hit him like a punch. She was right. He was trapped in a golden cage, too cowardly to escape because the price seemed too high. "What if I chose you?" The words were out before he could stop them. Tasha froze, turning slowly. "What? What if I told my mother I want to marry you, not Victoria or any of the others?" "Michael, are you insane? Your mother would disinherit you in a second. Maybe it's time I stop letting her money control my life." "And your project? The water system that could save millions? Are you going to give that up for what? For me?" Tasha shook her head. "I won't be the reason you lose the chance to make a real difference in the world." "But..." "No," she said firmly. "Don't do this. Don't turn, whatever this is between us, into something that will destroy everything you've worked to build." She left the kitchen, leaving Michael alone with the brutal truth. He was in love with a woman he couldn't have, trapped in a situation he couldn't escape, and watching the only person who truly mattered prepare to be destroyed by someone who supposedly loved him. The next morning, Catherine received an email from Diane Harper. The attached file contained information that brought a slight smile to her lips. Tasha Williams wasn't just a cleaner. She was a Spelman graduate. But more interesting, she had $47,000 in student loan debt. And her mother's bank account still held $12,000 in unpaid medical bills. Perfect vulnerabilities. Catherine picked up the phone. "Ms. Williams, come to my office. Now." When Tasha entered, Catherine was sitting behind her desk like a judge preparing a sentence. "Sit down." Tasha sat, her hands clasped in her lap. "I found out something interesting," Catherine began. "You lied on your application." "I didn't lie, ma'am." "Omission is a lie, Ms. Williams. You have a college degree. Why didn't you mention it?" "Because experience taught me that employers prefer not to know." "Clever. And manipulative." Catherine opened a folder. "I also found out about your debts. $47,000 in student loans. $12,000 remaining from your mother's medical bills." Tasha didn't say anything. What could she say? "I'm going to make you an offer," Catherine continued. "You leave this house immediately. You don't speak to Michael again. And in exchange, I'll pay off all your debts. $59,000. Clean slate." The silence that followed was heavy with poison and power. Catherine was buying her way out. As if Tasha were a commodity with a fixed price. "What if I refuse?" Catherine smiled, a predatory expression that made executives tremble in boardrooms. Then I will ensure that no family in Atlanta hires you again. Tarnished reputation. Questionable references. And those debts? I'll buy them up and call them all in at once. Bankruptcy before 30. What a legacy. Tasha felt tears burning, but refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give Catherine the satisfaction. I need to think. You have until tomorrow morning. Catherine turned her attention back to her papers. You're dismissed. But what Catherine didn't know was that Tasha Williams had learned something crucial during her years of working for the elite. Powerful people always underestimate those they consider inferior. And underestimating someone is the first step to losing a war. Tasha didn't sleep that night. Sitting in the small maid's room in the mansion annex, with a window overlooking the illuminated gardens where, a month ago, she had laughed with Michael about the absurdity of roses that cost $300 each, she picked up her phone and made a call she had been avoiding for 5 months. Tasha? It's 3 a.m., what happened? Jasmine Williamson, Tasha's older sister, was a professor of civil law at Howard University in Washington, D.C. 15 years earlier. She had witnessed their mother being fired and defamed by the Ashford family in Charleston after 20 years of impeccable service. Since then, Jasmine had dedicated her entire career to documenting and fighting labor abuses against domestic workers. Jazz, I need help. And I need you not to judge me for what I'm about to tell you. Over the next 40 minutes, Tasha poured everything out: the late-night meetings with Michael, the 4 candidates, Catherine's blackmail, the 24-hour ultimatum. Jasmine listened in silence, occasionally taking notes. Tasha, answer me honestly, Jasmine said when she finished. Do you love this man? The question caught her off guard. Love? She barely knew Michael. They were just 2 a.m. conversations, stolen glances, moments where the world seemed smaller and possibilities endless. I don't know if it's love, Tasha admitted. But it's something real. And that terrifies me. Good. Fear means you are thinking rationally. Jasmine paused. Now listen to me carefully. Catherine Montgomery is committing at least 3 federal crimes. First, blackmail using financial debts as coercion. Second, attempting to create a hostile work environment based on implicit racial discrimination. Third, possible illegal interference in consensual relationships between adults. But she has infinite money and better lawyers. And I have something better, Jasmine interrupted her. I have 15 years of experience prosecuting exactly this type of person. And more importantly, I have a connection who can help. Who? Remember Dr. Jonathan Reeves? The economist who testified in that case against the Vanderbilt family 2 years ago. Tasha vaguely remembered, a massive case about labor exploitation that had made national headlines. What does he have to do with this? Dr. Reeves is in town this week lecturing at Emory University. And he has a personal interest in cases involving Montgomery Industries. Jasmine let the tension hang on the line. Because Catherine Montgomery destroyed his brother's career 10 years ago when he tried to expose illegal labor practices at the company. For the first time since her conversation with Catherine, Tasha felt a spark of hope. You think he would help? I think he would jump at the chance to finally get revenge against Catherine Montgomery. But Tasha, I need you to understand, if we go down this road, there is no turning back. It will be war. And people like Catherine do not fight fair. Jazz, she's already fighting dirty. She's just doing it alone. Then let's give her company. Tasha heard her sister typing. Okay, I'm booking a flight to Atlanta. I arrive tomorrow at 10 a.m. In the meantime, I need you to document everything, every conversation with Catherine, every threat, every interaction. Record it if you can. Recording conversations without consent is illegal in Georgia. But Georgia allows one-party recording if you reasonably believe you are being threatened or coerced, Jasmine corrected. And given her ultimatum, you definitely qualify. After hanging up, Tasha sat in the darkness processing the magnitude of what she had just started. She was about to declare war against one of the most powerful women in Atlanta. A billionaire with resources, connections, and zero scruples. But then she thought of her mother. She thought of all the times Diane Williams had silently accepted humiliations, bowed her head in the face of unfair accusations, left jobs with a destroyed reputation but her dignity intact. No more, Tasha whispered to the empty room. Not with me. The next morning, Catherine called a meeting with the 4 candidates in the private living room. Girls, we have a small issue that needs to be resolved discreetly, she announced, serving tea as if she were discussing floral arrangements. It seems our Michael has developed an inappropriate attachment to a staff member. Victoria immediately straightened up. The cleaner. You knew? Amanda asked, surprised. I noticed the glances, Victoria admitted. But I assumed it was temporary. Men always have fantasies about the help. It usually passes once the reality of social differences becomes clear. Well, in this case, it needs to pass faster, Catherine said. I offered her a generous settlement to leave, but she asked for time to think. Which tells me she is considering alternatives. What alternatives could she have? Natalie asked. No offense, but she's a cleaner. It's not like she has options. Catherine took a sip of tea, savoring her next move like an expert chess player. It's precisely because she has no options that I need to ensure she understands her position. And I thought you could help. How? Lauren leaned in interestedly. Tasha Williams has been working in this house for 5 months. In that time, she has certainly had access to valuables. Catherine let the implication hang in the air. It would be terrible if something disappeared and was found in her personal belongings. Silence fell over the room. Victoria was the first to speak. Catherine, are you suggesting we frame her? I am suggesting we create a situation where she clearly understands that staying here would be detrimental to her freedom. Catherine smiled coldly. I have a diamond brooch valued at $75,000. Theft of that value is a serious felony in Georgia. Years in prison. That's illegal, Natalie protested. I can't be a part of that. Then leave, Catherine said simply. But know that whoever stays and helps will be my preferential choice for Michael. And whoever refuses. She left the threat unfinished. Amanda and Lauren exchanged glances. Victoria, however, was already nodding. When? This afternoon. Michael has a meeting out until 6 p.m. Perfect timing. But what Catherine didn't know was that Tasha was on the other side of the door, recording every word on the cell phone Jasmine had instructed her to hide in her pocket. And every threat, every plan of criminal conspiracy, was being captured in crystal-clear audio. At 2 p.m., Dr. Jonathan Reeves discreetly arrived at the nearby coffee shop where Jasmine and Tasha were waiting for him. At 45, a respected economist with a Ph.D. from Stanford, he had a personal reason to destroy Catherine Montgomery. My brother Thomas was CFO of Montgomery Industries 10 years ago, he explained, his voice heavy with old anger. He discovered Catherine was diverting employee pension funds into personal investments. When he threatened to expose her, she didn't just fire him, she destroyed him. She planted evidence of accounting fraud, ensured no company would hire him again. He had a nervous breakdown. He spent 3 years fighting fabricated charges before finally clearing his name. But his career? Finished. She uses the same pattern, Jasmine observed. She finds a vulnerability and exploits it mercilessly. Exactly. And after years of studying her, I know something most people don't. Jonathan pulled up his laptop. Montgomery Industries is currently under quiet investigation by the SEC for possible labor violations. It's not public yet, but I have contacts. If we could present concrete evidence of the CEO's predatory behavior. He smiled. It could be exactly the catalyst that investigation needs. Tasha pushed her phone across the table. Will this do? Jonathan pressed play. Catherine's voice, planning to frame Tasha, echoed through the empty coffee shop. When it ended, he was smiling. This isn't just evidence. It's an automatic conviction. Conspiracy to commit a felony, abuse of power, intentional creation of false evidence. He looked at Jasmine. Can you use this? I can do better than use it. I can turn this into a case study on the systemic abuse of domestic workers. Jasmine turned to Tasha. But I need you to understand, once we push the button, there's no going back. Catherine will come at us with everything. Let her come, Tasha said with a calmness that surprised even herself. I'm tired of running. Meanwhile, Michael returned from his meeting early and found something disturbing: Victoria, Amanda, and Lauren in Tasha's room, clearly searching for something. What the hell is going on here? Victoria froze, her hand still inside the drawer. Michael, we can explain. Then explain. Why are three of you ransacking an employee's room? Your mother asked, Lauren began, but stopped when she saw the expression on his face. My mother asked you to frame Tasha, he said, not as a question but as a statement. The pieces were finally fitting together. This ends now. He left the room, went down the stairs, and headed straight for Catherine's office. He didn't knock. Michael, what are these manners? I'm canceling, he interrupted her. Canceling what? Everything. This ridiculous competition. The 4 candidates are leaving tomorrow morning. Catherine rose slowly. Michael, sit down. Let's talk rationally. There's nothing rational about this. You're trying to frame an innocent person. His voice rose. You're trying to send Tasha to prison just because you're afraid I care about her. You care about her? Catherine asked dangerously. About a cleaner? You are actually considering throwing away your future, your money, your project, everything, for a woman who cleans toilets. That woman who cleans toilets has more integrity in her pinky finger than all your candidates put together. So you choose her? Catherine took a step closer. You choose fairy tale love over reality? Over responsibility? Over family? I choose to live a life that is mine, not yours. The slap came so fast he barely had time to process it. Catherine had never hit him before. Not once in 32 years. You are selfish, she spat. Ungrateful. Your father built all this. Dad died when I was 10. You built this. And in the process, you built a prison for me too. If you choose that woman, I disinherit you. Completely. No second chance. Then disinherit me. A deadly silence. Catherine looked at her son as if she were seeing a stranger. You're not serious. I am more serious than I have been about anything in my life. That's when the office door opened. Tasha entered, followed by Jasmine and a man Catherine recognized immediately, making her blood run cold. Jonathan Reeves, she said, her voice hissing. You are not allowed on this property. I'm not here socially, Catherine. He pulled out an envelope. I'm here officially. As a specialized witness for the SEC in the investigation into Montgomery Industries' labor practices. And thanks to Ms. Williams, I now have evidence that changes everything. Jasmine placed a laptop on Catherine's desk and pressed play. Catherine's own voice, planning to frame Tasha, echoed through the office with the casual coldness of someone ordering coffee. Catherine looked at the recording, then at Tasha, her expression shifting through shock, rage, and finally, cold calculation. That was illegally obtained. Georgia allows one-party recording under reasonable threat, Jasmine cut her off. And given your financial ultimatum yesterday, Tasha had a reasonable right to believe she was in danger. The recording is perfectly admissible. Furthermore, Jonathan added, I have already shared a copy with my contacts at the SEC. And with 3 investigative journalists. And with a state prosecutor who has a particular interest in cases of labor abuse of power. Catherine sank into her chair, realizing for the first time in decades that she had lost control of the situation. What do you want? Justice, Tasha said simply. And an end to the manipulation. Michael deserves to live his own life. And you need to pay for years of predatory behavior. Michael looked at Tasha as if seeing her for the first time. Not as the timid cleaner who silently served champagne, but as a warrior who had faced one of Atlanta's most powerful adversaries, and won. Catherine Montgomery hadn't built a billionaire empire by passively accepting defeats. After the initial shock, her mask recomposed with the speed of an experienced predator. Very impressive, Ms. Williams, she said, her voice regaining its characteristic coldness. But you underestimate the resources I have. I can bury all of you in lawsuits for years. You can try, Jasmine replied calmly. But not before the recording leaks to the media. And when it leaks. She paused dramatically. Imagine the headlines. Billionaire CEO attempts to frame black employee. Catherine Montgomery conspires felony to control son. Montgomery Industries is already under SEC investigation. This would be the final nail in the coffin. Are you blackmailing me? Catherine laughed humorlessly. Using my own tactics against me? I am offering you a choice, Jasmine corrected. The same choice you gave Tasha. Except our terms are different. Jonathan opened his laptop. Here's what will happen. First, you dissolve the marriage ultimatum. Michael is free to choose his own life. Second, you pay Tasha $250,000 for emotional damages, distress, and the attempted destruction of her reputation. Ridiculous. Third, Jonathan continued impassively, you will establish a $5 million fund for organizations that protect the rights of domestic workers. In the name of Diane Williams, Tasha's mother, whom you and people like you spent entire careers exploiting. And if I refuse all of this? Then the recording goes to the prosecutor's office tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Jasmine said. And you face criminal charges for conspiracy, coercion, and attempted fabrication of evidence. At a minimum, 5 years in prison. For a 58-year-old woman, that means getting out at 63, if you're lucky with parole. Catherine looked at Michael, expecting her son to defend her. But he merely watched, his expression unreadable. Michael, she said softly, are you going to let them destroy me? You tried to destroy an innocent person to control me, he replied. So yes, I am going to let them. Something broke inside Catherine at that moment. Not control, she already knew she had lost that. But the illusion that she was acting out of love for her son, not out of power. Fine, she said finally, a defeated voice Michael had never heard before. I accept the terms. We need this in writing. Jasmine pulled out an already prepared contract. Signed, witnessed, and registered. Catherine read the document with the expert lawyer she was. It was all there, Michael's release, compensation for Tasha, the memorial fund for Diane Williams. And an additional clause she hadn't expected. Michael gets immediate access to the 40% of the trust fund? She looked at her son. So all this drama was about money? No, Michael said. It's about freedom. But I will use the money to fund the water purification project. Something that actually saves lives instead of controlling them. Catherine signed. Her hand trembling slightly, the only external sign of how deeply she was shaken. Satisfied. One more thing, Tasha said, speaking for the first time since presenting the evidence. The 4 women upstairs. Victoria, Amanda, Lauren. They conspired with you. They need to be held accountable too. They merely followed my instructions. They are adults who chose to participate in a felony, Jonathan cut her off. But given that they did not follow through with planting the evidence, I am willing to accept a public apology and immediate departure. Catherine grabbed the intercom. Victoria, all of you come down. Now. 5 minutes later, the 4 women entered the office. They stopped upon seeing Jonathan, Jasmine, and Catherine's defeated expression. What's going on? Victoria asked. What's going on, Catherine said wearily, is that you were caught. Recorded. Conspiring a crime. So you are going to do exactly as I say, apologize, pack your bags, and get out of my sight. Victoria paled. Catherine, you can't. I can and I will. Because if you don't, you all face criminal charges along with me. And I doubt Senator Daddy would approve of a criminal record, Victoria. The collapse was almost poetic. Victoria, who had always commanded rooms with aristocratic confidence, stammered apologies. Amanda, the pharmaceutical heiress, cried silently. Lauren, the surgeon, trembled as she realized her career could end before it even truly began. Only Natalie, who had tried to protest the original plan, maintained some dignity. I am sorry, Ms. Williams. I should have done more to stop this. I didn't. I will carry that shame. Thank you, Tasha said simply. 2 hours later, the 4 women left the Montgomery mansion for the last time. Bags packed hastily, faces stained with tears, futures irrevocably altered by a decision to participate in casual cruelty against someone they considered inferior. Michael and Tasha stood alone in the garden as the sun set over Atlanta, painting the sky in oranges and roses that seemed too unreal for such a charged moment. So, he said finally, we're free. You are free, she corrected. I merely survived. Tasha, about what I said in my mother's office, about choosing you. He hesitated. I don't want you to think I said it in the heat of the moment. Michael. Let me finish. He turned to face her. I spent an entire month pretending to consider women my mother chose. Women who were perfect on paper. And every day, the only person I truly wanted to see was you. The only person with whom conversations felt real. You barely know me. I know that you read Dostoevsky at 2 a.m. even after working a 12-hour shift. I know that you defended your dignity against one of the most powerful women in Atlanta without blinking. I know that you could have accepted $59,000 and disappeared, but you chose to fight. He took a step closer. So maybe I don't know your favorite color or your favorite movie. But I know your character. And that is enough. And what exactly are you proposing? Because if it's another arranged marriage, I'm proposing we have dinner. You and me. As normal people who want to get to know each other better. No billionaire mothers. No ridiculous competitions. No pressure. He smiled for the first time in weeks. And if it works, we continue. If not, at least we tried something real. Tasha looked at the man in front of her. The man who had given up everything he knew for a chance to live authentically. Who had chosen potential love over guaranteed security. One dinner, she said finally. But I pay half. Tasha, I just gained access to millions. Exactly. And I don't want to start anything by being the person you saved or support. I want to be your equal. He extended his hand. Equals, then. She shook it. Equals. Inside the mansion, Catherine watched through the window. Watching her son fall for the woman she had tried to destroy. And for the first time in 15 years since taking over the empire, she felt something she didn't expect. Not anger. Not regret. But a genuine curiosity about whether maybe, just maybe, Michael had found something her money could never buy. 18 months later, Tasha Williams Montgomery stood on the stage of the National Labor Rights Conference in Chicago, holding the microphone with the same confidence she once held a cleaning cloth. When I entered that mansion almost 2 years ago, she began, looking out at the audience of 800 activists, lawyers and legislators, I was just another invisible domestic worker. But invisibility is a double-edged sword. Because when no one sees you, you see everything. In the front row, Michael watched his wife with a pride that still surprised him. Not the trophy wife his mother had envisioned, but a partner who had turned trauma into a national movement. Their wedding, 6 months after the confrontation with Catherine, was small. Just Jasmine, Jonathan, and surprisingly, Catherine herself, who had shown up unannounced, stood in the back, and left before the reception. But her presence had meant something Michael had taken months to understand. Surrender, not of defeat, but of recognition. The Diane Williams Memorial Fund has now helped 2,300 domestic workers with legal aid, education, and protection against exploitation, Tasha continued. But numbers don't tell the whole story. Behind every case is a person who learned that dignity is non-negotiable. After the speech, a CNN reporter requested an interview. Ms. Williams Montgomery, your story has become a symbol. But critics say you were lucky, you married a billionaire. How do you respond to accusations that your happy ending is not replicable? Tasha smiled. First, I didn't marry a billionaire for money. I married a man who chose integrity over inheritance. Second, the happy ending wasn't the wedding. It was the moment I stopped accepting inhuman treatment. That moment is available to everyone. In the green room, Michael hugged his wife. You were incredible out there. I learned from the best, she replied, kissing him. How's the project? Michael's water purification system, funded by the $20 million from the trust fund, now operated in 47 communities across 6 countries. Over 300,000 people had access to clean water for the first time. Installing the 10th unit in Haiti next week. Want to come? I can't. I have a congressional hearing on new labor protection legislation. She paused. But your mother will be there. The relationship between Michael and Catherine remained complex. She had fulfilled all the terms of the agreement, but the emotional distance was an ocean neither of them knew how to fully cross. Until 3 weeks ago. Catherine had shown up unannounced at the Diane Williams Memorial Fund office, where Tasha worked as executive director. "I came to talk about your testimony in Congress," Catherine had said, sitting down uninvited. "You don't need my approval." "I didn't come to give approval. I came to offer testimony." Catherine pulled out a document. "I have 30 years of internal correspondence from Montgomery Industries documenting questionable labor practices. Some mine. Many from my late husband. I thought they might strengthen your case." Tasha took the document, stunned. "Why?" "Because I spent 18 months watching you turn the worst moment of your life into a movement that is changing national legislation. And I realize." Catherine paused, a rare vulnerability crossing her face. "I realize I was wrong. About you. About what my son needed. About what truly matters." "Catherine." "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she had interrupted. "What I did is unforgivable. But I can try to make a difference now. So I am offering this." She pointed to the document. "And if you need me to testify personally, I will be there." Now, 3 weeks later, Catherine Montgomery was sitting in a congressional hearing room, waiting to be called to testify against the industry she herself had helped build. "Mrs. Montgomery," the committee chair said, "we understand you have evidence regarding systemic labor practices?" "I do." Catherine opened a folder. "And more importantly, I have a confession. For 15 years, I led a company that treated workers as disposable commodities. I justified it as market efficiency. But the truth is, it was cruelty disguised as capitalism." The room fell into absolute silence as Catherine detailed decades of exploitation. When she finished, there wasn't a dry eye, including her own. "Why are you doing this?" a reporter asked later. "You are destroying your own legacy." "I am fixing it," Catherine corrected. "Legacy is not how much money you accumulate. It's how much good you do with the time you have." That night, Michael, Tasha, and Catherine had dinner together for the first time since the wedding. The atmosphere was awkward, but there was something new, possibility. "Thank you," Michael said to his mother, "for testifying today." "I didn't do it for you," Catherine admitted. "I did it because it was right." "It still counts," Tasha said gently. 6 months later, Victoria Sterling, who had lost her job and engagement after the scandal, contacted Tasha through her lawyer. "Ms. Williams Montgomery, Victoria Sterling would like to meet you. Personally. For a proper apology." They met in a discreet cafe. Victoria looked different, less polished, more human. "I don't expect forgiveness," Victoria began. "But I've spent a year in therapy confronting who I was that day. And you deserve to know that I am trying to be different." "What are you doing now?" Tasha asked. "Working at a non-profit organization. Helping formerly incarcerated women find jobs." Victoria smiled bitterly. "Ironic, considering I almost turned you into one." "Victoria, can I ask you something? Why did you participate? Did you really hate me that much?" "It wasn't hate. It was fear. Fear that you, a black cleaner, could have something that I, with all my education and privilege, would never have. A real connection with someone." Victoria wiped a tear. "And I was right to fear it. Because you had exactly that." 3 years after the confrontation that changed everything, Tasha became pregnant. The day she told Michael, he cried, not out of sadness, but from the overwhelming joy of building a family based on real love, not social obligation. "What should we name her?" he asked, his hand on her belly. "If it's a girl, Diane. After my mother. And if it's a boy? You choose." Michael thought for a moment. "Thomas. After Jonathan's brother. The man who helped save our lives." Catherine, upon hearing of the pregnancy, did something unexpected. She showed up with an old box. "These were Michael's toys when he was a child," she explained, her voice choked. "I saved them all these years. I thought." She stopped, emotion finally breaking the barriers she had maintained for decades. "I thought maybe my grandson or granddaughter would like them." Tasha hugged her mother-in-law, a real hug, not a social one. "Catherine, you are going to be a wonderful grandmother." "I don't know about wonderful. But I'll try to be present. Truly present." The day baby Diane was born, Catherine held her granddaughter for the first time and whispered, I will teach you everything I've learned, including all the mistakes I made, so you don't repeat them. Years later, Diane Williams would grow up hearing the story of how her grandmother tried to destroy her mother, and how her mother responded not with revenge, but with systemic change that benefited millions. "Mommy," she would ask at 7, "did you forgive Grandma Catherine?" "I forgave her because she truly changed. But I never forgot. Because forgetting would dishonor all the people who suffered before me." If you believe that human dignity is worth more than any fortune, that real love overcomes social expectations, and that the courage to confront injustice can change not just one life but an entire system, subscribe to the channel. Because Tasha and Michael's story teaches us that sometimes the most inappropriate people are exactly the ones with the courage to challenge what is truly wrong with the world. Catherine Montgomery learned too late that power without compassion is just sophisticated cruelty. Victoria and the others learned that participating in injustice has a price money cannot pay. But Tasha learned something even more powerful, that you are never too small, too poor, or too insignificant to demand respect. And that dignity is not given by others, it is claimed by yourself. The best revenge was not destroying Catherine. It was building a legacy so powerful that her billions seemed small in comparison. It was proving that real love, genuine work, and unwavering integrity always win the power games of an elite that forgot basic humanity. And it was creating a family, not perfect but honest, where a child would grow up knowing that human value has no price tag.